From the Middle is a founding member of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 91 of From the Middle. If you're tuning in for the first time, we're kind of a catch-all comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview style podcast. We're three middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives, with a point of view somewhere in the middle. Well, at least 2/3 of us tonight. Our regular co-host Kendall is out, but we've got a guest in his place, the wonderful Wizard of Za. From our very own Columbus, Ohio, where we broadcast our podcast. Although you're originally from Cleveland. Is that Cleveland area? Is that right, Spencer?
Youngstown, but close enough. Northeast Ohio, yeah.
Close enough. I've offended everyone in Cleveland, so that's a great start. But thank you so much. We've got Spencer sitting in tonight. We're super excited. If you've listened to the podcast before, you might be familiar with us talking about some underground pizza. Well, better than eating the pizza, we just decided to have the man on the show. and we wanted to just talk a little bit about that experience and talk to him with the Wizard of Za out of Columbus, Ohio, like I mentioned. And we're super excited to have you on, man. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time to chat with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to have me on, and as well as taking the time to try the pizza. I know that was kind of the first test. There was some stipulation of, we'll try it. If we like it, we'll have you on.
Yeah.
If we don't, we'll just kind of not mention it. But I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and I'm happy to now be here on the podcast.
Yeah, I was really going for not sounding pretentious when I said that, but I thought I want to qualify it a little because we know we're going to love it. But like, I've got to just set some expectations that like, we're not going to, if we don't love it, it's not like we're going to go on and say bad things. But as we figured, we all absolutely loved it. And like I said, for anyone who's maybe not listened to some of those episodes, we've got to talk a little bit about, just very briefly, I'll let Corey jump into how this whole thing came up. Because Spencer, you've done an awesome job on social media at getting some attention and having some folks check out your social media accounts. But a very quick version of the backstory was what really came from one of our favorite stand-up comics, Sebastian Maniscalco. So Corey, you've got to very quickly fill people in on where this whole thing started.
Yeah. So the quick background, if you haven't listened before, is we talk about stand-up comedians a lot, specifically Sebastian Maniscalco. He has a podcast with his fellow stand-up comic buddy, Pete Corielli. And in episode 421, which came out around August, and I was telling Spencer this just before we started recording, they did an episode where Sebastian is talking about this idea of this guy in LA who only makes 16 pizzas a night. And he's got pictures with celebrities all over his Instagram, and you got to get on his waiting list. So there's like this VIP list. You go to this guy's house, and this just blew Sebastian's mind. And he was telling Pete, who lives in New Jersey, about this whole experience. And we just brought up the idea of sort of like the gig economy and like how COVID was disrupting a lot of industries, but also creating unique platforms for people who have a talent like Spencer or a skill to have sort of like a new way of bringing their product or service to market. And so we talked a little bit about it. And then the second layer to the background is that Dylan and Kendall regularly talk about their quest for the best pizza in Columbus, and how a place as wonderful as Columbus, that is a test market for many food franchises, it's like pizza can be really hit and miss in this town. And it's like, there's got to be better pizza. So just after we told this Pete and Sebastian story, we heard about Spencer and what he was doing with the Wizard of Za. And Dylan was like, we got to get on the list, and then we'll make it a whole thing. We'll all three get together. We'll have the pizza. And so, yeah, that's kind of what ended up finally happening, and it was absolutely worth the wait. We've got our reviews that we'll get into later, but that's the backstory.
Yeah. And so it's such a hard thing because there's such a quantity versus quality discussion sometimes with different food chains and pizza chains. And so I feel like there's been a lot of miss for me. And on top of that, I'm going to offend everybody in Columbus now. I'm not the thin crust pizza guy. I get why people like it. The cracker crust, the super thin, it's just not my thing. So I'm always looking for like the New York style slice or like a more of a hand tossed pizza. And then I saw your Sicilian style, Spencer. And I'm like, this is just something different to try. That's not the thin cracker crust. And so we were talking a little bit before we started. Pizza is, I've said this before, and you said it beautifully. Pizza is a highly personal food. Like there are lots of opinions and nostalgia and customization that goes into pizza. And so I was so excited to try what you were doing. And it looked so unique. We had to try it. So that's the backstory. I wanted everyone to get a sense of not only why we were so excited to have you on, but then that whole extra layer of social media. So tell me a little bit. You said you're from Youngstown. How long have you been in Columbus now?
So I've been in Columbus for almost 10 years now. I came down to Columbus for college and graduated from Capital University here in Columbus, and stayed ever since. I fell in love with the Columbus community, and just the fact that there's something going on every day at any given point in time. Obviously not as much now with COVID, but pre-COVID as well as will be post-COVID, it's like there's no being bored in Columbus. There's always something you can be doing. Chances are you can be doing it for free. And I just love that about Columbus. Being from Youngstown, there's not a ton to do back there. I was, and I still am very blessed to have grown up there. Great community to grow up in, but it's an old steel town, and there's not much to do outside of going to the mall or seeing a movie or spending some time outside. And then obviously eating. A lot of eating happens in Youngstown. It's great food, great people, but Columbus just offered, a huge opportunity for me in terms of, living out my dreams and goals, but also just being able to experience life a little bit more than I'd be able to back in my old neck of the woods.
We can definitely relate to that as two guys from Ada, Ohio. And we were just joking in our last episode that if people don't know Ada, you say Lima. And if people don't know Lima, you say an hour south of Toledo.
And I, to be honest, I didn't know Ada or Lima until I met my girlfriend. And she's from Coldwater, which is even smaller in that kind of area. But then she went to Ohio Northern, so spent time in Ada in that area. But I'm right there with you of, it's a great place to grow up. But, luckily there are other towns in Ohio within drivable distance that you can live in and really experience life just a little bit more.
Yep, absolutely. So tell us about like your last year, and not even specific to pizza, but like just tell us about how the last year has gone for you. We're all excited to be done with this chapter of our lives, but what's that felt like? How have you managed?
It's tough to even call it a year. It feels like it's been 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, right.
This amount of time. Well, sometimes it feels like it's been 3 or 4 years. Sometimes it feels like it's been 3 months. Like I can't believe how long ago some of this stuff has been, just because so much of my time has been spent at home or doing the same things over and over. But it's been full of highs. It's been full of lows. Unfortunately, COVID hit close to my family and my friends early on in the pandemic. And so I was one of the individuals that for a long time early on was really advocating for folks to take it more seriously, because I had already seen COVID deaths close to home, people that were major parts of my life. And so unfortunately, for a while there, it was one of those things where unless it was affecting you close to home, you didn't really get it. And so, that definitely brought on some lows to the year, but, obviously, and the reason why I'm here on the call was I obviously had some highs as well. I've been able to accomplish, one of my lifelong dreams and goals that I never thought I would be able to do, at least this quickly. But it's been definitely, like you said, a chapter to remember, but one I'm excited to close. Every day I feel like it's something else. The other day we were in the kitchen all talking, and it was like that first nice day that we kind of had. It was like 50 degrees, kind of sunny, and I was like, man, I could really be at like a concert right now. Like, I would love to be at Express Live, grabbing a beer, grabbing a slice of Mikey's pizza, and just like going into the pit and seeing a concert. But there's just so much I'm looking forward to getting back to. But yeah, it's been an incredible year, for good and for worse. But happy to be closing this chapter for sure.
Indeed.
50 degrees and sunny in Columbus means you're barbecuing and you got
Yeah.
your windows down when you run your errands.
Yep, the windows were down for a period in time. I'm not quite the one that is like jumping to put on shorts. I always, especially in college, that was always like my thing, because you get like that 49-degree day and everyone would be out in shorts. And I'm like, all right, well, have fun in a week when you're sick. But no, that's nail on the head. Ohio, we're ready for 85 degrees and we're ready for 50 degrees. And it's the same activities that we're doing on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, you were talking to me in college. My rule was always if I could wear flip-flops in the snow and plant my foot and it didn't fall into my sandal, then it was okay to wear sandals. So that was always my rule. I felt pretty safe wearing flip-flops that way. So tell us kind of how and when the Wizard of Za started. So it's been kind of a wild year. Did that kick off before COVID, March of 2020? Was that after? Tell us that timeline a little bit.
Yeah, kind of yes and no. So a lot of folks don't know this, but the Wizard of Za account actually started more in December of 2019, January of 2020. And obviously that was before COVID. So I was still traveling and living life to the fullest. And I, as a, cook and as a foodie, love to eat pizza. And so I created the account as a pizza foodie account, for me to showcase my travels and the pizza that I was eating across the country and world and in Columbus. And, eventually as I was doing that so much, I started to focus a lot more on my individual pizza creations. And as more of those started to creep on to the Instagram page, that's when I started to have more and more folks interested in trying it. Because like you alluded to, Columbus has a very distinct style, the very thin and crispy kind of cracker crust, lots of toppings. And as Columbus has obviously grown, so has the areas that folks are coming in from. And so you've got now a mass amount of people that aren't from this area and don't take to this style of pizza super well. And so I had a lot of folks that were interested in it because, it looked more like what they grew up eating, or it was just a nice change. And so kind of, yeah, I would say February, March of last year was when a lot of those folks started to kind of reach out. And for me, I was still working full time at my job. And so if anything, I saw it as an opportunity to get some close family and friends an opportunity to try it. And it would then give me a chance to grow it and work on it personally, so that maybe one day, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, when I can maybe pursue my goal of opening a restaurant, I've got it really dialed in. But what happened was, they all had it, absolutely loved it. There were minimal notes of things that they suggested needed changed. And they started to kind of solicit it out to their friends and family. And before I knew it, I had some people knocking in my DMs of, hey, how do I try the pizza? And that's when I kind of started to think, all right, maybe there's something with this. And right about that same time, I got furloughed temporarily from my job and had more time to sit down and figure it out. And so pretty quickly, I was kind of doing a 180 of figuring out, what's the deal with ghost kitchens? Is there commercial kitchen space I can rent out? How can I make this happen legally? Things of that nature. And the rest is history, I guess. That's the very short end answer of kind of how that all started.
I love how what you were doing end of 19, early 20 sort of rolled itself up into the market research of like, what do I like about these pizzas and what do I not like about these pizzas that informed how you're making it now. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And, I think that goes across the board to any business that you're in. It's important for you to understand your market and what it is that you're doing. It's the same thing if you're just a pizza enthusiast and someone that likes to eat pizza. It's very difficult for folks to take you serious. For example, you're someone that lives in Columbus, grew up on Columbus style. This is all you've ate. And then you go and you eat a Detroit style pizza or a Sicilian style pizza or a New York style pizza and you hate it. It's like you've got to branch out and experience it all to understand what does the best of the best taste like and what do these different styles taste like. And so, leading up to me starting, I had already tried probably 50 to 60% of most top 25, top 50 lists in the US for pizza places across the country. And so I had a good idea of what does the highest quality, considered amongst the media and considered amongst foodies and writers and things like that taste like. And so, like you said, it was definitely awesome that I had the opportunity to try a lot of those to then know what does that need to taste like in order to be considered with some of those best.
Yeah, that's great.
And you were talking about just before we got started, you mentioned a podcast you were listening to, even just foodie kind of culture. Was there any media you were consuming other than that, like that was helping steer that? I mean, obviously you were looking at top pizza restaurant lists around the country. I love food documentaries. There's so many on Netflix and Hulu. And I mean, what were you looking at any of that kind of media too, as part of your research or just for fun before you got rolling?
Yeah, of course. And even prior to kind of this life that I'm now living, I used to be a musician as well. And it was kind of the same thing with that. I think a lot of folks come into the idea that like, social media followers are just going to drop in your lap and all these things are just going to happen because you've created a page for it. But there is so much research you can be doing, so much you can be soaking in and experiencing. Yeah, I very much am of the mindset that we never stop learning. And so even now, not just before I started really doing the pizza thing, I still every day am reading, food magazines, watching videos. You pull up my YouTube account, all the suggested videos are food related, pizza related. I'm sure it's the same way for you guys with things that you're passionate about. But yeah, it never ends. And I think that's what's a part of being a successful business owner and being successful in whatever industry you're in. You've got to consistently be staying on top of who's who and what's what and, kind of what's the next big thing and doing research and just continuing to soak up all the information you can is a big part of that.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because there's certainly trends. Like I will never claim to be any kind of like professional critic of food. I'm just an amateur foodie. I love doing it just for fun. And guilty pleasure, I've watched enough Gordon Ramsay to know that it's like know your strengths, simplify your menu, get the best ingredients you can. Like there's trends that you see over and over when you watch some of that kind of stuff, that it's really pretty simple. And all these restaurants are trying all these crazy things. But at the end of the day, he pretty much always just comes in and it's like, what are you trying to make? do you have a simple menu and do you have the best ingredients? And honestly, that's kind of what drew me to what I saw on social media with you. It's like, this guy clearly knows what he's doing. Like, he's not trying to make 15 different styles of whatever
Yeah.
right now. It's where I'm seeing high quality ingredients. I'm seeing a simplified set of options. And so it's like, this has got to be good because he's not trying to do a million different things all at once.
You hit the nail on the head. That's the idea. And even if it wasn't ready in March, I would not have moved forward with Wizard of Za unless I had felt comfortable. And so that was a big part of the research. And, you mentioned Gordon Ramsay, and some of those shows can sometimes be wacky, but there is a lot to learn from that. And again, that's something that I've pulled from watching shows like that and from my own personal experience in kitchens and in restaurants is, sometimes it's best to just go back to basics and everything else will kind of just flow in, because when you go to the basics, it allows you to be consistent. It allows you to do things at a really high level, but it also gives you a lot of extra time to then look at those things and find creative ways to make it different, rather than trying to do all of that at once, with a huge menu, with a huge restaurant, with, all the different little things thrown in. And that's where it just becomes a jumbled mess for a lot of restaurant owners and things like that. So that's exactly what Wizard of Za is about. I wanted to create a platform where, the menu is very manageable. We can ensure that every pizza goes out the same, properly done well. Everyone gets a great experience. That we're using high quality ingredients. But even beyond that, I'm looking at my employees' experiences. If I have a really organized method like this, they don't have that huge rush of, folks, and the kitchen gets volatile and, it just becomes a not great working environment. Now they're able to come in every day and know exactly how many pizzas we're making, what time they're being picked up. And beyond that, it also now allows them to be creative and share new ideas, and us to be able to experiment and do new things. And so I think COVID already has kind of forced a lot of businesses to have to start thinking like this again. But hopefully, I think we'll start to see a lot more folks opening restaurants with this kind of idea in mind. And ultimately, I think it's going to allow us to get the best of the best in a lot of different cuisines, because people are going to be forced to focus on one or two or three things that they do really, really well, rather than trying to please everybody who lives in Columbus with a 30-item menu.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love so much the things you're talking about. And you paid us a huge compliment before we started recording when you said that you had listened to even one or two episodes of ours. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But one of the things we try to do, whether we're talking to a surgeon or a news anchor or a professional comedian or one of my artist buddies, is we always success is constant. Like there are secrets to success, and whether or not you're trying to become a musician or a professional athlete or make a killer pizza. And I'm just hearing you talk about things like focus on the basics, treat people right, make a quality product, have a good customer experience, be thoughtful. Like, in the current climate, anything you're doing, especially on YouTube, for a stand-up comedian, they look across YouTube and you have all these wannabe entertainers and YouTube personalities. And a true comedian isn't scared, because the thing they'll say is like, the cream will always rise to the top. And yeah. I think what we're hitting on a little bit is restaurants can try, pizza or not, restaurants can try gimmicks, and they can try, oh, this is a place where we shut off all the lights and you're in complete darkness when you eat. And you can try all those things. But like, if the food sucks, the food sucks. And so I think that's what I'm hearing from you, is like that, just a really cool attitude about what you're trying to do. And that kind of answers what my next question was going to be. And that's, people can make a good thing. Even fewer people can make a really great thing, but they still have to figure out a way to market it and they still have to figure out a way to create demand. And I think what you just answered is that your pizzas started speaking for itself.
Exactly.
And then people started finding you and making their way into your DMs. It's not like you went, I know I make a really good pizza. I just need to get some photos with some Columbus celebrities so everyone thinks they have to have it. Right.
Yeah.
That's two very different approaches. And it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is that people sought out quality, and then, you know, a 3 or 4 month waiting list was created.
Exactly. And, you know, unfortunately, there's things like social media that do kind of create folks to, I don't know the best way to put it. You know, a lot of folks might look at my profile and see that and think the latter that you just described, that, oh, he's done this wonderful job of marketing this product. You know, he's sought out Columbus celebrities to take pictures with, and he has created this demand and this hype. And really, it is the total opposite. It is the fact that it's marketing at its most basic form. It is, if you have a good product, people are going to want to spread the word. And that was the idea of the concept, was I wanted it to be solely by word of mouth, almost that speakeasy type experience. Because before social media, that is how you shared that you enjoyed a product. You just told your family about it. You told your friends about it. And so I didn't care if it took 3 years for it to catch on or if it took 3 months. And luckily the pizza did speak for itself, and people, you know, spread the word. The best part about that is all of those kind of Columbus celebrities or people that popped up on there, all of those folks actually reached out to me, which was mind blowing when it happened. But it is very much a testament to the product itself. And so I've always said, for a lot of the haters and kind of the folks that, you know, don't care to learn the story, you know, you can say it's hype all you want, but this didn't grow without having a good product, because it's solely grown on people spreading the word and sharing that they enjoyed it. And so, yeah, if it doesn't matter if it's pizza or it's music or it's art or whatever it is you do, if you do a good job, it's going to speak for itself. And that's the biggest key in any of it. I get folks all the time that ask what the secret was, or, you know, they're interested in starting to make this, which is awesome. I am always super encouraging of folks to go out and do that. But every time I'm like, look, there's not much of a secret. You know, I just had a product that spoke for itself. You know, obviously from there, I was able to get strategic and kind of create some marketing behind it. But that's the biggest thing. You know, first off is you have to make sure you've got something that people want and that people are going to enjoy.
The quality of the product will always be the great equalizer. And I love that. You can buy followers on YouTube and Instagram and all that.
Yeah.
But like we said, at the end of the day, if the product doesn't speak for itself, it's not going to work. And I just love getting to talk with you, because I get to hear the story, but also just experience how down to earth you are and how like genuine you are about the love of making that quality product. So we've talked a little bit about the background. We've talked a little bit about the ramp up. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll maybe talk a little bit about what's next for you as you move sort of from underground to very much above ground. So we will be right back with Spencer Saylor after you hear a word from one of our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hey there, we're BFYTW Podcast. I'm Pantsless Aaron, I'm the host, and we are three silly people playing very silly games for fakey points that don't count for anything. Our permanent team captains are a veteran and a podcaster, and a veteran podcaster, it's Stevie.
Hey guys, it's Midnight Smoke here. I love being funny, goofy, and I'm here for your entertainment.
And his permanent opponent, my oldest friend and a gamer and a storyteller, it's Jorge.
Hey guys, Jorge here, HH_Empire, and I am the logical voice to this Maelstrom of Chaos, sometimes.
Well, if you like silly people playing silly games, then you want to come hang out with us at BFYTW Podcast every week. That's BFYTWpodcast.com.
All right, we're back with Spencer Saylor of the Wizard of Za. We've had a really interesting conversation so far, and I love some of the backstory, some of the interaction. I think it's funny. You use the word haters. It's so funny when somebody just has something that's working and somebody doesn't get it, it's like they have to have it, or they just have to bash it. Like they can't, there's no other option.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so funny to watch. And I love that we talked about how simple really the combination of work that you're doing is, having a simple menu with awesome ingredients, a manageable flow of business for your employees. Talk about confidence through the roof when you know how simple your menu is, you know how to execute it, you know what the flow of customers are going to look like. Like, it's so much easier to operate with that level of confidence when you know what every day is going to look like.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I love all of that. And all of that ultimately builds to the customer experience, right? Which is clearly important. People have to love the product. But before we do that, I'm always curious, if I take away the customer element for just a second, you're not allowed to use that as the answer. What's some of your favorite stuff that you do day in, day out? Is it playing around with ingredients? Is it trying new stuff? Is it, is it the marketing aspect? Do you like that side of it and interacting on social? Like, if I take away the person taking a bite with a grin from ear to ear and that part's gone, what's some of the most fun stuff that you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I just love to cook. So being able to work with my hands every day and cook every day for a living, that's, one of the biggest dream come trues of it all. That's always been a huge passion of mine. I grew up in the kitchen with my mom and my dad and my grandmother, and that's where my love from it all comes from. And so to be able to say now, 26, 27 years from when I was starting with them, that's what I do for a living. That's the coolest thing of it all. But yeah, I mean, every day, my morning ritual is I wake up and I go and I make the dough and make the sauce and prep. And so that's kind of my meditation for the day. I love being able to do that. That order is really nice to have. I put on some music for whatever I'm feeling that day and just kind of unwind and start the day. And so I kind of notice that whenever I don't start my days like that, like on my day off, it kind of feels sluggish and it kind of feels, not normal now. So I absolutely love that portion of it. I love being able to surround myself with folks that also are like-minded and loving food and loving to get creative. I've been able to hire a staff, which has been one of the most rewarding things through all of this, to be able to give some of these incredibly talented cooks that have been displaced from the industry an opportunity to do what they love again. But not only that, be able to do it in this style of an environment has been awesome. And so I've got a great team that I've hired, and I love working with them day in and day out because they inspire me. They teach me things. It's just a constant kind of learning process for both of us, which is awesome. And then, yeah, I mean, kind of everything you touched on. I mean, I love the marketing aspect of it. Yeah, I went to school for music business, but, most of that was centered around business. And so a lot of marketing education and experience for me. And so it's been neat to kind of see all of that education and experience at work through this. And not exactly the customer experience of them eating it, but just being able to engage with customers and potential customers every day is awesome. That was a big thing for me because dine-in wasn't available when this started. And even still now, that experience isn't the same. That was my thinking, was how do we create a takeout option that still gives customers an experience? How do you still go beyond that? Here's your food, here's your money exchange, and still have them feeling like they are a regular or they are a part of that company. And so part of that has been, messaging every single person that it messages, every person that comments, every person that likes, I make sure to personally conversate with all those people because, that's my chance to create that relationship with them. And that's also my chance to expand my community. I don't have any family down here. I've got friends from college, but it's been so neat to expand my Columbus family through all of this and meet so many people. It's been awesome. So I guess, long story short, I love every single part of it. But one of the greatest parts is just the fact that I get to cook every day. That's awesome.
Well, one thing I didn't know I needed until you answered my question. Now I need a Spotify Wizard of Za daily playlist.
Yeah.
Just whatever you're amped up with in the morning, you just throw one song on there a day and people can start shuffling it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea. I did that around Christmas time, actually. I called it Deck the Zaz, and I just threw together a pizza kind of Christmas playlist, all my favorite holiday tunes, and shared it on the page, and folks loved that. So I've been meaning to do more stuff like that to kind of give people insight into what we're listening to in the kitchen on a daily basis.
Well, let's give them a little bit right now. Who are some of your non-Christmas, what are some of your go-to playlists for those mornings?
Yeah, and honestly, it changes throughout the day. I would say when I come in, it's pretty mellow for the most part, unless I'm like already rearing to go. So usually I started off with like Bahamas or Jack Johnson, stuff like that I know is kind of mellow, easygoing. I have a French playlist that I love, which is very kind of chill cafe style music, which is always easy to kind of get into. I have a private pizza playlist actually that I created a few years ago. That's a lot of the crooners, a lot of that Italian music. Fun fact, I actually focused on classical Italian voice in college. I had to study an instrument. So a lot of that kind of classical Italian music is all kind of what I start the day with. But within that kind of 2-3 hour frame that we're prepping, it kind of amps up as it goes on. So sometimes we're switching gears to 90s hip hop or, kind of pop punk alternative stuff. I also love the classics. I've got a playlist called Betty, You Can Call Me Al, and it's just got all the top, rock and roll hits of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Awesome. So it varies. Luckily, I love all styles of music. It doesn't matter what it is. And so it changes honestly day to day, which is awesome.
That's great. So we're going to get into sort of our experience. That's Dylan, Kendall, and I. I got to tell you, we were so excited to get that announcement. I'll let Dylan pick up from here. But we were so excited to get the announcement that we were about to be ready to place our order. So Dylan,
I've never checked my.
You pick it up, and then we'll get into our reviews. Yeah,
I've never checked my Instagram messages so much as I have for a little bit of time there. But it was such a you obviously, by the time we had ordered, I don't know, February sometime, I guess, 2021. By the time we ordered, you had such a streamlined process that it was all like perfectly interactive at just enough points along the way that it felt like it was just slowly building anticipation. So kudos there. And it was funny because we get the ability to order, and I'll reserve that experience for everybody, the details, but we get this chance to order, and I'm placing the order for all three of us. And I'm like texting, like, okay, we got to pick, when do you guys want to like try to go? Are we going to meet up? We'll take stuff down. So it turned out that we ended up driving. So I live about 35 minutes outside of Columbus. We ended up driving. I think the night we came in was about the worst weather we had all winter was the day that I happened to pick on the calendar. So awesome job for me. I wasn't one of those 50s and sunny days where we're driving with the window down.
Well, he asked us what day we wanted to try to shoot for, because we knew we got one in Newark, one in Sunbury, and one in Gahanna, and we had to all converge and like be able to eat it while it was hot. So He asked us, and then I forget it's my daughter's birthday that night. So like I knew it was her birthday, but I didn't realize those nights converged. And so anyway, we drove through the crappiest weather to get to the pizza as fast as humanly possible.
Look, we weren't doing this thing without having it like piping hot. So it was so important to me that I actually prefer I'm weird with a few things. So like Columbus people can hate me. I'm not a thin cracker crust guy, whatever. I like piping hot pizza. I actually kind of prefer it room temperature normally, but I knew I'm like, I gotta try this like piping hot. This is how it's meant to be eaten. So this was a big deal of like planning the logistics. And so my wife and my now 3-year-old were with me in the car. So we're driving through this snow. This like it's late at night, it's snowy, whatever. We're determined to get this pizza. Anyway, so we go get it. You were a complete pleasure to chat with very briefly. I knew you were busy. And it's funny, I threw some of our stickers. I got you some of our stickers and said, hey, you were expecting us. We're from the Middle Guys.
Yeah.
If you like the podcast, keep these. If you don't, just throw these stickers away. It's fine. But we'd love to have you on, and here's some stickers for joining. I think you said the same thing about the pizza. You're like, yeah, if you don't like the pizza, just do the same thing. Just
it was like a mutual agreement of, you like the pizza, great, I'll come on. I don't like the podcast, I'm throwing away the stickers.
Yeah, and you could have canceled the hanging appointment for the podcast. So I just jotted down some notes, and this is all stuff you've heard before. So but I had to jot down some notes because I'm like, this is going to be weeks later that we're talking to Spencer, and I want you to know, and you might not normally get feedback on your pizza live like this, so I'm giving it to you now.
This is awesome.
It was, so we got the pepperoni and the vodka, the pepperoni, perfect amount of spice on the pepperoni pizza, by the way. The crust was like the perfect, like crispy around the edges, soft everywhere else. The pepperoni was the bomb. That's a whole backstory. That's a big deal for Columbus people. The pepperoni, and I'll let you elaborate on that if you want. The sauce to cheese ratio was perfect. And so I'd mentioned early in the podcast, I'm more of like the hand tossed New York style type. But it was not, I don't normally like deep dish. I'm not that like Detroit style thick crust. It was just the right amount. And my mouth was literally like salivating from the smell of the vodka. I wanted you to know that. And it just smelled like somebody put down like the whole grandma cooking with your grandma and your parents thing makes sense. It's like an Italian grandma set this perfect dish of like vodka pasta in front of me, and I was just smelling this vodka sauce. Now granted, it was late and I was super hungry, so the salivating was partially that.
We always have that going for us, is so many folks are looking forward to this, so they don't eat all day. And so I'm like, this is perfect, because when they do eat it, it's going to be good whether they like it or not, because they're starving.
That's right. So maybe that is your gimmick. Maybe you build so much hype that nobody eats. Maybe that's a tip people can play. And so my final thought was, if you don't jar that vodka sauce for me to use on pasta at home, it's a real missed opportunity. I'm telling you.
It's been thought about. It's
okay. Maybe we can arrange something on the side. I'll buy a couple jars from you, because it was fantastic. But I want you to know, for it not being, quote, my style of pizza, I absolutely loved it. And it was such a great experience. You've done some partnerships with some other companies around Columbus. We got some of the cookies as well. Those were great. So shout out there for anyone who follows along. But it was such a unique and fun experience as somebody who likes to try food of all varying levels. We've joked on the podcast before, Corey and I, we didn't grow up poor. We didn't grow up rich. We grew up with parents who took care of us, but we can appreciate a really nice steak dinner as much as we can Taco Bell at 2 a.m. So like there's that whole range of like quality depending on your mood. But it was just such a great experience. And I wanted you to know that my wife loved it as well. And she's a tough critic. So,
well, I can't thank you enough for all the compliments, but also the patience. You alluded to obviously how long you guys waited to try it. And I can't thank you enough for that, because if folks weren't patient and so supportive, this wouldn't all be happening. So thank you. And it's great to hear all that feedback, because honestly, the way you just put it and everything you just said is exactly what I try to do with this. And I think, unfortunately, again, another kind of place where social media causes things to fall short is we're so used to now eating with our eyes and not our mouths. And we've kind of forgotten about the whole kind of ugly, delicious part of food where, you know, just because it doesn't look to your standards of what you would typically eat doesn't mean you might not absolutely love it. And so we do get a lot of folks that look at it and they go, you know, it's not enough cheese, or that's not enough sauce, or whatever it is, you know, not understanding the style of Sicilian pizza just in general. But the folks that have had it will then tell you, oh no, it's blended really well. You know, it's a great ratio of everything. And that's what we always sought after. You know, same goes for the crust. You know, folks see that rectangle pie, you know, it looks a little bit thicker, but you know, it's not Detroit style. It's not as thick as you would think. And again, it's one of those things that as folks have the opportunity to try it, you know, it's going to be different for a lot of people. I think they're going to just continue to enjoy it, hopefully. So thank you for all that. I'm so happy to hear that you guys enjoyed it.
And I have
thank you for putting your lives on the line
totally.
in the winter weather and making the trek.
Turned out it was totally worth it. So it's easy to talk about it now. But no, and I have to say the weight thing is so funny to me because I've seen a few of those comments online, right? It's bound to happen. Like, who would wait 6 months for anything? And I have to think, it's not like you actively think about it every day and like check a box on your fridge. Like, well, I'm not going to get that. You just don't think about it. And then I happen to be on Instagram and I check the box and no big deal. I'll check again later. That whole thing is bizarre to me. Like as if people actively spend time every day thinking about waiting for it.
It's tough. I mean, part of it is that's just the Midwest for you. You know, we're very much all individuals that when we want it now. And, you know, this is an experience that, you know, very much fits more of your, you know, New York City or LA or Chicago or Nashville or Austin, you know, that more of an experience, different style. But luckily Columbus just continues to grow into a market where we're able to do things like this and not have to worry about, you know, trying to capture every single person, because there are a lot of folks that just, they don't get it. And that's fine. You know, as much as I hope that those individuals give us a shot and try it, because I think they'll enjoy it. You know, we're not dying if you don't, and you don't get it. So, yeah, luckily there's a lot of folks that can understand it, that they're not having to sit outside the door for 6 months waiting. And luckily anymore, you know, folks don't have to wait as much to get it, which is nice.
Yeah. Before we help ourselves to the last few slices of this episode, Spencer, if you can suffer through a few more compliments, I wanted to read to you what my wife and I said about our slices that we had. So my wife, Sherry, worked in the restaurant industry for a while, and here's what she said. I order pizza based on what I want to taste more for that specific order. If I want a lot of bread, I order from one place. If I want some interesting toppings, I order from a local place. This is a really good all-around pizza. It's balanced and fresh. It tastes like it's from a specialty restaurant. It doesn't taste like anything we've ever gotten in Columbus in a good way. So that's awesome. That's from Sherry. And then mine was vodka with lots of exclamation points. And I've got to tell you this, man, I love bread. Bread is one of my many weaknesses. And when I order pizza, even as a bread lover, I feel like I'm typically just tolerating most crusts. But with your pizza, I felt like that crust alone could win its own awards. And then you throw quality ingredients on top. I'm like, this is amazing. The toppings were the perfect icing on that beautiful crust, and each had a little kick, and really liked it. So seriously, I do tend to hyperbolize, but it is by far the best pizza I've had in Columbus. So hats off.
Thank you. Really. The vodka pizza is my favorite pizza that we do. And again, I love my vodka sauce. I have considered canning it, because you are not the first person that suggested that. So that is something I've thought about doing. But yeah, that's the style of pizza that I grew up on, you know, close to that Sicilian style. And the best part about Sicilian style pizza, when it is authentic, is the crust is literally just a loaf of focaccia bread, which if you guys have had focaccia, it's incredible bread. And so we do that. I mean, if we have, leftover crust or one that doesn't bake properly for how we want it for the pizza, we take it home and make breakfast sandwiches or whatever it is, because it is just good bread on its own. So thank you guys so much for sharing your feedback. We appreciate, as a new business, hearing all feedback, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We're still very much in the early stages of our business and want to hear everybody's thoughts, as long as it's constructive. But
so tell us, as you scale, I mean, tell us what's next and how more people can get their hands on what we've just now described, because they're probably on their way to work and their mouths are now watering. So what's the next chapter for you, man?
Yeah, so we finally got through the wait list a couple weeks ago, got everybody that was on it the link to place an order, and just recently opened up that link to order to the public. So if folks go on our Instagram profile or they go on our website, they can now hit that reserve button to go on. Pops up as a calendar. It's almost like buying tickets to a show. You click on a spot, there's a timer in the corner, and you got 10 minutes to check out. It kind of holds it. And then after that, it releases it back into other people. But we open up availability to 6 weeks out. So right now that 6 weeks is full. Every single day at noon, we open a new day. So there is always the opportunity to book. Our assumption is that, here shortly over the next week or so, that, immediate rush of folks going to book will start to slow down as everybody that's been waiting has the opportunity to try it. But we'll see kind of how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I've been pretty adamant about not doing another Wizard of Za in Columbus, at least. I think it's tough to recreate what was so special about this restaurant, and that means a lot to me. I don't want to dilute it with another spot and it not giving folks that same experience every time. But I am giving some consideration to doing a Wizard of Za out of state actually right now, and kind of working through that. But no, the strategy and the plan actually is Wizard of Za. As we start to get through the wait list, we'll start to do kind of weekly to bi-weekly specials of some other comfort Italian specialties. So other handmade pastas, homemade tortellini, tiramisus, salads. I mean, all of that comfort Italian food, we make it all from scratch. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of release it out. Folks will have, that week or two to try it. The idea being then that, again, they love it and they can't get their hands on it because it's off the menu. And so my plan is to follow that up post-COVID with a full service restaurant that has all those items on the menu always. So that's my plan, always strategizing, always have a reason to be doing things. But yeah, I am very much focused right now on getting as many people the pizza as we possibly can. There's a lot of frustration right now because people do go to the site to book and it says sold out. Unfortunately we can't help the demand, but I constantly tell people, we're working 14-hour days every day, busting our rear ends to make as much pizza as we possibly can. Part of that is we make everything as much as we can from scratch. And that's part of that high quality is, we're in there all day long prepping all the different parts, with the exception kind of the pepperoni that you mentioned. So we're putting on all the work to get people fed as quickly as we can. And we hope folks will just continue to be patient and continue to keep having the pizza.
Well, we're telling them now it's absolutely worth the wait. I'm so excited for you and the journey that you're on. As we've said multiple times now, the quality is there. This is not hype, and people got to get their hands on it however they can. So And we're just fortunate that we caught you on your day off. We just happened to record late on Monday nights, so you got some rest today, and it's been a pleasure to have you. And Dylan, anything else from you? I know you got a couple more in the queue.
Yeah. Well, I do have another question, but I'd certainly, we're going to tag your social media profiles, but where should people go look for you? What websites, profiles do you want them to check out and follow?
Yeah, so everything pertaining to the food we do on Instagram. So at Wizard of Za is the pizza stuff. So it's basically the Wizard of Oz, but Za on the end instead of Oz. And then I am just at Spencer Saylor on Instagram as well. So I do kind of cross some of the posts with each other as far as the pizza stuff goes. But if you're interested in my other cooking, a lot of that's on there, as well as just following along to see kind of that continuation of growth that we just talked about. You know, if you want to see those other concepts coming to life, that's the place to really watch them. So the folks that follow both accounts kind of get some behind the scenes on a lot of the Wizard of Za stuff and a lot of the other stuff I'm working on.
Yeah. And so my last question. So, we mentioned early on the gig economy. We talked a little about, quality ingredients, taking care of your people, know your strengths. I think there was plenty of nuggets in there for anyone that might be interested in whatever it is they're good at, but trying to take it to the next level. Do you have any other advice that you want to share for anyone listening that maybe they're younger in high school or college, or maybe they're older, they've thought about a restaurant, they've thought about, they're really good at making, cakes, they're really good at making. Do you have any other advice that you want to share for those people?
The big thing that I think I've learned out of all of this is to just say, take the risk, just do it. You're going to definitely kick yourself in the rear if you don't, as your life continues. Just as we get older and we take on more responsibilities and we start families and whatever it is, those dreams and goals that we have just kind of start, and it's not a bad thing. You just have other priorities that are more important to your life and things that you love more that kind of take those over. But, I kind of saw it with my music career where I had the opportunity to take it to the next step and do it full time. And ultimately I decided to play it more safe. And there were definitely times, and there still are times, where I look and go, I kind of wish I would have just done it and just experienced it. And if it wasn't right, it wasn't right. Because moral of the story with pretty much everything in life is everything's going to be all right. And it's kind of the old reggae wisdom there is everything is really going to be all right. And I remind myself that every day, because it is always something's always coming up that's throwing a wrench in your daily plans or weekly plans or yearly plans. But you've got loved ones around you. You've got people that support you that are going to take care of you. So if you've got a passion and you want to take it to the next step, go for it. Luckily, COVID, that was one of the nice things about COVID. In my life prior to COVID, I never would have had the time to sit down and plan out a business model and strategize opening a restaurant and all those things, because you do the 9 to 5 and you come home and you're exhausted and you eat dinner and you go work out, and next thing you know, it's time to go to bed. And COVID luckily allowed me to sit down and do that. So if you're someone listening and you've got the last couple months here, hopefully, of what we have of COVID life left, sit down and figure it out, because it's definitely worth the risk if it's something that is important to you.
What a great quote for a guy wearing a Nike hat. And the
Just
episode.
do it.
Just do it, man. Spencer, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. You're very kind and generous to give us this time, but you're very you're a little bit of a kindred spirit, just like what we would say a good old boy, super down to earth, really easy to talk to, and loving what you're doing. So this has been a pleasure, and it means a great deal to us that you would spend some time with us. And so thanks a ton.
Absolutely. And I mean, you guys know this concept is totally by word of mouth. So you guys taking this time to continue to help spread the word means the absolute world to me. you guys are inevitably right now helping our business tremendously through this, no matter how many folks listen, whether it's 10, whether it's 100, whether it's 1,000. And we look at that with customers as well. You know, getting pizza to those Columbus celebrities is great. You know, they have huge followings, but you know, the person who's just going to tell 3 people is just as important, because you never know what's going to come from it. So thank you so much for sharing and having me on today. And hopefully we'll get you some pizza again here soon.
All right.
And you had my wife at tiramisu. She's going to have to come back for sure.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been episode 91 of From the Middle. Please give Spencer and the Wizard of Za a follow on Instagram, even if you don't live close to Columbus. Awesome nuggets in this episode, and you can always enjoy pictures of delicious looking food. Thank you again, episode 91.
Hi, I'm Jules from Riddle Me That True Crime.
I'm Robin Warder from The Trail Went Cold, and Jules and I want to tell you a little bit about a case that means a great deal to us. The death of 9-month-old baby Jacob Landine on April the 10th, 1987 in Socorro, New Mexico.
The day prior to his death, on April 9th, baby Jacob was being watched by his mother Brenda's new boyfriend John, not his real name, in his mobile home on 1453 Fatima Drive. While John was babysitting Jacob, Jacob would incur what would be his second head injury in a period of weeks. The prior head injury was a subdural hematoma, or brain bleed, and it was serious enough that it needed to be lanced to take pressure off baby Jacob's brain while being monitored by doctors over the course of several days.
The circumstances surrounding how Jacob was injured and subsequently died are murky at best, with the suspect giving multiple versions of the events of the day, ranging from Jacob choking and accidentally hitting his head while trying to dislodge a cookie, to Jacob falling and John returning to see the injured infant.
The suspect also reportedly confessed to officers that he was indeed responsible, but there is no paper or audio record of this confession in the police file. The reasons given by the DA for not pursuing the case are confusing as well, with one of the reasons being that they were worried that John would file charges against the state.
It was the opinion of the doctors that baby Jacob was struck in the head and this was no accident. In the years to follow, John goes on to sexually abuse young Eric, as well as physically abusing his mother Brenda and emotionally abusing and isolating them both, making their world very small.
During the autopsy, layers of abuse seem to be present. A healing rib fracture from around the time of the first head injury is also discovered. It's impossible to say exactly when the injury took place, but what is clear is that someone was abusing young Jacob, and that person was most likely John.
Eric Landine, Jacob's brother, has been fighting to get justice for him. However, he faces some obstacles such as the statute of limitations of 6 years on second-degree murder that State Representative Bill Ream has petitioned to have overturned.
Join Robin and I, as well as criminologist Dr. Ashley Wellman, an investigative expert, a legal expert, a forensic psychiatrist, as well as Jacob's brother Eric, as we explore all angles of this case and try to bring awareness, understanding, and hopefully, ultimately, justice for Jacob.
The series starts on March the 1st. Tune in on your favorite podcast app.